Look, I've spent decades behind studio consoles. I've burnt my fingers on more soldering irons than I can count, and honestly, I am so sick of watching musicians fall for the exact same corporate marketing hype year after year. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tearing down literally the biggest myth in modern audio engineering. We are going after the gear snobbery that artificially separates so-called warm amplifiers from harsh ones. We're going to look at raw, uncompromised bench tech data to show you exactly why practically everything you've been sold about expensive gear is probably a total lie.
Let's just attack this contradiction straight out of the gate. Guitarists will routinely drop 3, 4, maybe even 5 grand on some boutique vacuum tube amp head. And why? Because some glossy marketing brochure told them it sounds, quote-unquote, warm. Right. Meanwhile, they'll completely ignore a dirt-cheap $50 solid-state amp sitting in a pawn shop. Why? Because the internet forum experts claim it sounds like a harsh swarm of bees. Well, spoiler alert, they're wrong. Or actually, scratch that, they're just completely missing the point. Because they fundamentally misunderstand studio physics. What they call a swarm of bees is actually a very specific acoustic profile. And if you actually know how to wield it, man, it's an absolute weapon.
To really get why, we need to look at the physical difference between how these two circuits literally break down when you push them past their limit. So, when a vacuum tube overloads, the signal transition is gradual, right? As the grid voltage goes up, the tube hits this soft limit. It gently squashes the signal, creating this really smooth, rounded waveform. But when a solid-state transistor hits its absolute voltage limit, its power rail, it doesn't round off. No way. It just stops dead. The signal is strictly, violently limited at the threshold. This produces a flat-topped, brutal square wave. It's a hard clip. The corners of that wave are literally physically sharp.
And you know what? That translates directly into the sonic consequence of that flat-topped wave. Check out the spectrogram data we've got here. This is forensic proof, folks. Over on the top left, you've got soft clipping. That's your typical tube. The waveform transitions smoothly, and it actually preserves a lot of the fundamental character of the note. But on the top right, that is hard clipping. Just look at that intense, aggressive, high-frequency energy totally saturating the spectrum. Hard clipping generates intense, higher-order harmonics, specifically the 7th and the 9th. And here's the kicker. Those aren't even musically related to the fundamental note, meaning they physically, mathematically clash with the chord you're actually playing. They add this nasty dissonant edge. In oscillation, your ear perceives those steeply rising edge harmonics as this grating, buzzing, white noise kind of sound.
So, this brings us to the core of our whole paradox here. Welcome to the devil zone. That hard clipping we just talked about, it produces a violent frequency spike right between 4 kHz and 7 kHz. Now, if you plug into a cheap solid-state amp in a quiet bedroom and just crank it, yeah, it sounds lethal. It's just uncompressed fizz. But listen closely because I'm going to tell you the truth that these boutique gear companies really don't want you to know. Inside a professional studio mix, those exact hyper-fast, aggressive edge harmonics are an absolute goldmine. Think about it. When you're fighting against a thick, heavy bass track, maybe 2 rhythm guitars, and a drummer just absolutely smashing the cymbals, a smooth, warm tube amp often turns into this blanketing, muddy mush. You completely lose the punch. But that cheap solid-state amp, its dynamic range is compressed straight into square wave territory, making it insanely loud. And those nasty, hyper-fast, high-frequency transients, they slice right through the densest mix, literally like a scalpel. And the best part is, you don't even need excessive equalization to do it.
So here is the absolute crucial point. We want the incredible cutting power of that cheap solid-state amp, right? But we absolutely need to control that ear-bleeding top end so it doesn't sound like a hive of angry bees. But I'm telling you right now, do not reach for the EQ knob on your mixing console. Don't do it. Slapping an EQ on it just introduces electronic phase shifts and artificial coloration. I want you to think like a real bench tech for a second. How do we fix this physical problem at the physical source?
The answer? We do it with geometry. Take a look at this blueprint. So we take a standard dynamic microphone, like a classic Shure SM57. Now, if you point it dead center at the speaker cone, which is what we call on-axis, you are getting all the treble, all the punch, and all of that jagged, lethal high-frequency spike. But if you just simply slide that microphone toward the outer edge of the speaker and angle it at 45 degrees against the grill, which we call off-axis, the physics of the sound capture completely transform. That brutal fizz, it just naturally rolls off.
There's a veteran studio guide that puts it perfectly. They say, off-axis miking darkens the sound up just a hair. Why fix it in the mix when you can take care of the problem at the source? Exactly. Hit the nail on the head. This isn't just some old, dusty studio trick. This is pure acoustic reality.
By angling that microphone, you are essentially creating a natural acoustic low-pass filter. You're mechanically rolling off that jagged 6 kHz spike, but you're locking in the tight, fundamental mid-range transient that you desperately need to cut through the band. You get all the aggressive attack of the solid-state circuit, but without the harsh, ear-fatiguing buzz.
All right, let's break down the raw physics of exactly why this works. High frequencies are highly directional. Because their wavelengths are physically smaller than the diameter of, say, a 12-inch speaker cone, they beam straight out, literally just like a flashlight. You have to be directly in line with the center of the speaker to capture them fully. Low frequencies, on the other hand, they have massive wavelengths. They fan out and they literally wrap around the room. So, when you place your mic off-axis from a directional radiator, you are fundamentally changing the ratio of high frequencies to low frequencies that are actually hitting the microphone's capsule. And to get even more granular, because of the arrival times across the mic's diaphragm, you introduce these subtle phase shifts that naturally attenuate those hyper-fast high frequencies. Acoustic filtering is always going to sound more natural than electronic EQ. You're using physics, not a circuit board to tame your tone.
So, look, the next time someone tries to tell you that a $50 solid-state amp is totally useless for professional recording, you'll know for a fact they're just repeating a myth. They don't understand the solid-state transient paradox, they definitely don't understand clipping harmonics, and they absolutely do not know how to place a microphone. Stop buying into the gear snobbery, guys. Stop paying thousands of dollars for warmth when literally all you really need is a basic understanding of raw acoustic geometry. If you're ready to stop wasting your hard-earned cash and start learning actual studio physics, you need to subscribe to the Tone Manual. We deal in raw, uncompromised audio engineering metrics. None of the fluff. Until next time, trust your ears, trust the math, and for the love of God, stop letting the marketing departments mix your records. Because I really have to ask you, are you going to keep mixing with your wallet or are you finally ready to mix with your ears?